Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 115, The Art of Custom Web Design, Our Unique Approach and Process, and Why Go Custom. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hi again. You got Matt today, and I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics today, WordPress. Actually, what we'll be talking about can be applied to other CMS though, or other frameworks, or however you're building a website, or however you're having somebody build a website for you. I want to talk about something I get a question a lot about because it's kind of our specialty, but really break it down exactly what this means. And that's building those custom sites and what that means. We have, for our agency, my agency, Unified Web Design, we specialize in two very particular things: custom, maintenance. And custom meaning custom features, custom anything custom on a website. Things you can't do out of the box with whatever CMS you have, or with any plugin out there, or maybe there is a plugin and we want to do something custom that works with that plugin. Custom. It could be a fully custom site designed from the ground up into a beautiful functioning website. But what does that mean, really? And why? Why do you want to do it? Because there's multiple camps, probably something in between. There's a spectrum. All right. Some people understand the custom thing. Other people are like, why would you even do that? Why not even just do Wix? And guess what? I'm not going to argue that case completely today. But with something, these platforms exist for a reason. Like Wix exists for a reason. And WordPress exists for a reason. And all these other solutions exist for a reason because people use them. It works for people, right? So if something's working for you, great. If it checks all the boxes, you're good. Rock on. But it's not good for everybody. And there's somebody may have identified the reason for them not to do it that way, or they need it custom. So basically, this conversation is more about building it fully custom, a full custom website, what that actually means, at least from my agency's perspective, and how I coach my own developers, how I built our processes and framework around this. And like I said, it's us. It's not everybody is going to think about it the same way Matt thinks about it. But I found, through years of doing this, that how we approach it in the tiered way I'm going to talk about, how we approach it, it provides the best results and checks all the boxes in terms of scalability and speed and performance and everything else. Now, there's a lot of really great reasons to go with custom. I'm not going to take this episode to go into detail on all of that, but it's things like just fewer restrictions, fewer roadblocks. I'm the kind of guy, and I think I gravitate to this because I'm the kind of guy that doesn't want roadblocks. It's just my personality, whatever. But if I'm going to start a project, I want to know that I can build whatever I want, that I'm not constrained. I don't have guardrails that don't allow me to go sideways this way or that. I want to be, if I want to do something a very particular way, or if I want to take a feature and just take it a little bit further and add a little bit more functionality to that, and it's often not me, right? It's the client. I do not like saying no. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. What I used to do when I used to build websites for the masses, we had years ago, a marketplace for WordPress themes called Hexeter. I helped build that. And I had built the boilerplate, the framework for these themes, to build all these themes. We built almost 100 themes, right? And every time they'd come to me with, I was doing this for another company. Every time they'd come to me with a concept, I'd be like, yes. And I'd just go do it. I'd find a way to do it. I very rarely had to say no to something. I would find a way. And you're building custom themes, so there's nothing stopping me. So it's the same way with building for clients and building, as a service, where I don't want to be in a position where I have to go back and say no. Usually, I may not know immediately how it will be done, but I know through my experience, it's rare that I have to go back and say, we can't do it. Now, there may be additional scope and a little bit of additional cost, of course, but I don't have to say no. That's the only thing that will stop that if the budget's not there. So there's that. There's the ability to have more control over speed. You're not working with a third party where there's limitations that way too. Even in a WordPress environment, if a plugin's not doing it for you, you can use a different plugin, or you can build something custom, or customize in some way to improve performance and all that. There's a lot. There's also from the branding and uniqueness perspective. If you do something fully custom from design on up, instead of a template, a pre-built template, a lot of brands are going to want that. They want to know that there's not going to be another website out there that's going to look like their website. That's super important for a lot of brands, especially the more higher end, larger businesses and stuff, corporations or whatever. But for anybody really, I want my websites to look unique, and they are, because they're all custom. So it's the security. It's just the long-term. One of the beautiful things about building something custom is, how I think a lot of times that, if you purchase a pre-built theme from some marketplace, whether that's ThemeForest or wherever, if you're WordPress, there was a, I don't know where I learned this a couple of years ago, and I don't know if it's still true today. It's probably somewhere around there, but the average business every 3 to 4 years changes their website, and if you're using somebody else's theme, you're probably changing the theme. And then there's a whole thing you got to do to kind of convert everything to a new theme or new platform, whatever you're doing. And that is what it is. It's something that a lot of companies have to deal with. But one of the beautiful things about building custom is you don't really need to do that. If you have a good team behind you, good creativity and whatever, good creative team, good technical team, you can make, the theme doesn't matter. And you can make subtle changes over time. This is particularly important for sites that get a lot of traffic. Maybe you don't want to update the whole site and the whole theme all at once and risk traffic, but also from an SEO perspective or whatever, restructuring it, and just a different code base structured differently, and it messes things up. Or also just from a conversions perspective, you don't want to necessarily do that. So some of the clients we work with is just this iteration, this continuous iteration and changing and tweaking, and maybe we redesign this section, this page, we just one of our more important clients, long-term clients, we just redid their product pages on their e-commerce store. And that was a whole thing. We brought in the copywriter, conversion expert, copywriter, wireframed it, designed it, built it, custom. But that was one thing. We didn't do the whole site. We're just looking at just this part of the site. And then over time, now we're going to do some tweaks to the front page. And I do that with my own sites. My own sites have gone through different iterations, different heroes, a different section we're adding over time, or removing this section, or just, you can do that. If you did it custom, if you use things like Elementor or page builders, it's easier to do that too, because again, it's a lot of times like with Elementor, the theme can be very basic and it's all just modules or whatever you call it in Elementor. Or if it's just blocks or, and that's kind of what full site editing is today too, with just the way WordPress went with blocks. It's the same type of thing, So those are a lot of the benefits there. Now, there is a con, and this con is kind of something that has to be understood, right? So when I'm selling services, web design and development services, I don't expect everybody to be able to do business with us or want to, because we have a very defined way we do things. And we inherit stuff. We got all kinds of random stuff too. And we work in all these other environments and Elementor and do all this stuff. So even though we're talking custom today, even though that's our main focus marketing wise, we also work with a lot of Elementor and other frameworks. So anyway, but the thing with custom though, there is a higher initial cost, right? There is an investment up front especially if there's a full design process there where my designer or my design team comes in and they design, and then there's a wireframing process, sitemap, mock-up before it even starts getting built. And then there's the translation process. But all of that, if that's all in there and we're doing all of that, it's going to be higher. We're talking thousands. We're not talking about a $40 theme on Theme Forest or whatever they cost these days. That is, if you're getting a couple $100 theme, that's a bargain, right? Because custom, literally, developing something from the ground up. And you take a design and then you translate that design to code, and then you go through the whole thing. There's no piece that's not touched and looked at. It's not just out of the box and go. So there's that cost. There's also the maintenance cost. If you build something custom, there's going to be higher maintenance costs. So you're going to need, like for us, we can also that's why we kind of do the maintenance too. Although we, get a lot of sites, we just inherit sites when we do get maintenance contracts. But if we built it from the ground up, we could also maintain it, and we're the team you go to for that. Now, I don't think, it's not necessarily that there's more maintenance. Like if the site's well coded, it's going to last years without major bugs or major issues, right? But you still want somebody there, especially if you want to add features and stuff. And this is, again, so the people we serve with custom themes are somebody that wants that ability to do anything they want, that care about brand, but maybe they have other features or integrations and things like that, or they want the ability to scale up over time and build on what they have. And the way we build, it's a very clean framework, very simple framework. We only build what they need, and then we keep building on top of that. If you started with this bloated third-party theme, it just will start to grind. It will have conflicts and things that you're going to have fewer conflicts if it's lightweight and you're only building what you need up front. But again, it's a particular type of person that wants those things. Again, and there's a lot of benefits to doing custom, so it's worth it. If you're going with, especially, kind of the larger companies that we build sites for or whatever, they have to, because there's more and more unique integrations and things that they have. And custom doesn't mean that it's harder to maintain or add content. In fact, custom can also bleed into the admin areas and how content's added on the site. We can actually create custom ways to add content that makes it easier to add content. You're going to have those limitations with other pre-made or if you go with a Wix or whatever. But anyway, so all of that said, you got the why, got to kind of touched on the why a little bit. touched on, yeah, okay, there's some cons here. It's going to be a little more pricey. And again, it's not, that is what it is. We're not expecting to get all the business. We have a very particular kind of client out there that, and it's not even high end, right? But basically, if somebody's not seeing the value and has the budget to at least put a few grand into their website, we're probably not building custom. Even our most stripped down custom, even our most stripped down is a couple $1,000s, right? So that's where we start. And we're plenty busy. So there's a demand out there for that. Just like there's a demand out there for $40 websites. So with that, let's get into the actual custom build. So first of all, the beautiful thing about custom too is that, again, I touched on this a little, where you don't have any limitations, and that includes on the design side. So I can unleash my design team. I do some design, and I got a designer, but we can basically design a website. You certainly have to have a little bit of understanding where the limitations are, like, when you're designing something, or if you design something that's completely outlandish, it may be difficult to do. So those things have to be understood when you're designing. So it's always helpful to have some development experience. But basically, there's very few limits, though. Even on the animation side and all that, you can decide to do almost anything. So that's the freedom of building custom. You're not, if you have limitations in terms of certain templates you can use or themes you can use and a certain way the layouts work, you may not be able to do what you want to do for a particular section. Now, understand, like even Elementor. Now, we have actually translated designs that we came up with onto Elementor. So you can design an Elementor too. And that's another way we can do custom work. If somebody loves Elementor, or that's just the project, right? We can design using Elementor's framework. So we can translate in different ways. We can translate to Bootstrap. We can translate to, so our in-house team can do any of those type of translations, or Shopify or whatever. But there may be limitations, outside of WordPress. WordPress we love because there's very few limitations, especially on the translation side, and you can do anything custom. So now you got the website itself, and you're going to build the website. And we're using WordPress as the main example here. So with WordPress, we have an in-house framework, but you could start with any block theme out there. We use a full site editing block theme these days. I haven't done one of our old boilerplates. That is the old WordPress way of doing things with like Bootstrap and stuff. For the past year, it's basically been all block themes, full site editing. If you don't know anything about WordPress, that's Gutenberg. That's basically everything is a block. Just think of it that way. So we have that framework. So we start with that. And it's very bare bones, just a little bit of a structure to now drop in blocks and design with blocks. It's kind of very similar to Elementor in that you can design with modules there. Here it's blocks, right? So when we're doing this, and this is really what I wanted to drive home today in terms of custom themes or custom WordPress sites or custom sites, is that when we build it, we are not building everything custom. What? It's not like every line of code is custom written. Even ChatGPT is not doing that, okay? Spitting out code for us. No, it's number one. Well, first of all, we already have a theme boilerplate, right? That we did code that from scratch, but we reuse that framework. But now on top of that, though, we're not every single feature and all the stuff is coded from scratch. number one, you got WordPress, right? So you got the theme. That's kind of your foundation, your architecture around what you're doing. Then you have WordPress, which provides you all the functionalities and features of a CMS, so you can manage your content. But then to do the actual translation of a design, let's say you got a very unique hero, like the top of your front page of the website. That's what we call a hero, where that's usually a big background and then some kind of CTA, call to action, button or images or whatever. Maybe a form to sign up for a list, whatever that is. It's custom, right? And with that now, that could be a block, right, in WordPress. And there could be other sections. There's a testimonial section. There's another, just a content section with a unique content layout. All these sections kind of stand alone, and we start translating, which simply means we're styling them, right? We're applying CSS and maybe a layout built with blocks in WordPress. You can create columns. You can add different content in different ways, like images and this. You can float them. You can do whatever you want. You can add whatever. There's a lot of blocks you can use to do anything. But you may have to style those. So you might have to add a class, like a CSS class, and then you style that section based on that, using that, leveraging that. But the way we do it is tiered. So we start, got the framework, got the theme, got WordPress doing its thing. The framework's there, the architecture's there. Now let's go to work and build our sections. Well, we start from a blocks perspective. We start with core. We do everything we can with core, which means the core blocks that WordPress provides. Out of the box, when you install WordPress, there's core blocks there. There is the paragraph blocks. There's the image. There's the image in content block. There's the menu block, the logo block, the in different layouts, and there might be some patterns. There's a patterns library where it's basically a collection of blocks in this particular pattern. You do as much as you can with that. And each of those blocks will have their own little settings on the side where you can, change the font, or you could change the padding and the margin, maybe some other features. And you go as far as you can with that. And then you do some CSS. You do a little bit of styling in your style sheet, and you get it styled the way you want. You go as far as you can with the settings, and then you get it styled with your extra CSS wherever you put that, right? Now, it's custom. So when we're getting into this, you're either just going to note these things and just know how your sites are built with us, or hopefully others are following a similar structure. Or, this might be interesting. You can follow this if you are building custom themes. But so you got your core. Okay, now you go as far as you can with that. Now what? In our case, so there's 4 tiers of this. In our case, number 2 is actually unified plugins. So we have a plugin called Unified Email Capture. It actually has a couple bonus plugins. There's a blocks plugin. There's a tweaks plugin. We're also working on a theme we're going to give away with that very soon. It has a basic theme. We're going to have something a little fancier soon. Side note. But that blocks theme, that unified blocks theme, even the unified email capture, we're going to go there. We're going to install those, and there's not too many blocks in there yet. That's something we're going to be building up over time. We're actually working on some more blocks for that block plugin, but it's going to be, we're going to use that kind of to create common sections, because every website kind of has its common sections, things you reuse or unique ways to design something. And that's the next step. And then, so you install it, you do the configurations on the side, then you do your little CSS, and you're done. On to the next. Okay, now you find another section. Okay, so the core blocks aren't going to work. The unified plugins, for whatever reason, we don't have that block. So now you can go to a third-party block plugin. There's nothing wrong with that. We're building a custom theme, but that doesn't mean we can't use other people's plugins. We do that for other things like cache plugins, SEO plugins, security plugins, maybe a form plugin. It's okay to have a block plugin or two. Nothing wrong with that, as long as it's built well, right? So of course we're assessing that. We're going to have our go-to plugins, or we're just going to, we'll understand the performance behind it if it's going to be a problem. But there's nothing wrong with that. So maybe you have a plugin out there on the WordPress marketplace has, WordPress repo has, everything you need. Maybe it's a nice little toolkit, a library of plugins, and you do that. Then you put that plugin in there and you configure it, and you add a little CSS if you have to, and then you go as far as you can with that. There's one more step here. So you got core, UWD, third party. What's the fourth? Custom. Now you can go super custom, right? You can go, now we have been leveraging advanced custom fields. ACF has they've kind of simplified building custom blocks. So if you have some kind of layout you just can't do with anything else, or it has some functionality in there that you need, that you can't do with another plugin, or a very specific way you want to build that slider or whatever, you can build your own custom. That takes a little bit more talent, a little more development talent stuff, but that's the fourth tier. And so that is actually how a WordPress theme that we build, that's our process. So even though we call it custom, that doesn't mean we don't leverage other people's stuff or don't have a base code to start with, right? In our case, I like to use in-house. I like to develop an in-house themes, so because that's something we can, there's no sneaky code in there. There's no bloat that we have to worry about. We build it the way we want to build it, and we can maintain it over time. We keep it, really the themes these days are for a full site editing is going to be as simple. And then WordPress does its thing and all that. So that is what we mean by custom and how we approach that. Again, there's a lot of good reasons to go with a custom theme. It does require more of an upfront investment, a good development team to help you translate your vision and get your design. But at the end of the day, it creates a theme and a website that's very unique, that you didn't have to design something with and say, I can't do that, right? You never had to say that. You never ran into a roadblock where you couldn't go any further, with a particular idea. Like I said, the only thing that's going to limit you there is budget. But most of the stuff, honestly, not 90, I'm not going to throw a percentage out there, but most of the stuff you can do within the budgets. And if not, it's usually identified up front in our scoping or our discovery. Like, it's going to cost you a lot more. Maybe you don't want to do that, or maybe you take this other approach. It can play out all kinds of different ways. But I love working with this process and the way we do things. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it doesn't mean that we don't work with other frameworks and do Elementor sometimes, or even offer that. If somebody wants an Elementor site, we'll translate a design onto an Elementor site. We're still translating. We still have that capability. That's where kind of our value comes in, being able to translate almost anything onto anything. But yeah, but otherwise, that's now, right? If you're ever curious, what does custom really mean, and how does Matt's team do it? Now you know. If you got any questions about this stuff, never be shy about asking me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook too. I'm hanging out. I'm around. You can ask. ask me any questions, or we can even, if it's something you're interested in, certainly we can jump on a call. Not some people are. I had a really interesting call, like a call probably a month or two ago. Somebody was referred to us, and I started talking. I said the word custom, and they totally lose their minds. But I could tell immediately she was completely against custom. And I had it's part of recently been kind of up in my game in terms I need to have better rebuttals for this. I have to work on those rebuttals. And I think the big reason was that it was the maintaining it. And that, if you, and it can go bad, right? So I think of everything when we're doing a client, we've built a relationship, and we're going to be able to help them long term. We're going to build something that's solid, that's using standards today that are going to be a long time before this site breaks. It's going to be pretty solid as long as you keep it up to date and plugins up to date and all that. It's going to be pretty solid for a long time. But I always, at the same time, know that hopefully we're with a client. They're going to come to us, and if there's issues or bugs or whatever, that's a relationship now, right? But her concern, I think, was she must have maybe she worked with a custom theme, and maybe that development team just cashed out, and now they're serving tables as a waiter or waitress. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I've done it a certain time in my life, but I'm saying my point is that they were a developer for a little while and then they went off. But it can go sideways though. I've seen it where we've taken over custom themes that were a complete mess. So it's really, yes, there's a possibility that the wrong developer, or you don't have that support where custom is going to be bad. But generally speaking, the clients that we work with, number one, have the budget. Number two, they see the value in keeping that relationship and having somebody maintain their sites. And I don't know if there's a number three there, but there's the values. We're there to support them, and there's very few problems. There's sites we've been managing for years, even our own sites. I want to knock on wood right now, but very, very rare that they even get hacked. I mean, because they're locked down. The security is good. We keep them up to date. It's really, if you have a hack site out there, and we've come to the rescue of a couple over time, it was because the plugins were super out of date. Maybe I've gotten websites that were like years out of date. I've seen websites years. I'm talking 4 or 5 years. They haven't even updated a plugin, and they wonder why they got hacked. But if it's not maintained, that's going to happen. One of the clients that we've been helping them for about 1.5 years now, I think. They were a mess when we first got them. They didn't even know where their server was, so, and they were getting hacked. They were crashing, and then they were getting hacked a lot. That was a matter of once we got them off their current, that web host and just it took a while to get them in a good place, but we got them in a good place, and, they're doing great. They haven't crashed. They haven't crashed. They haven't gotten hacked. They haven't for a long time now that they're better on better infrastructure and all that. So it can be done well, but you do have to have a committed team behind you or somebody in-house that knows what they're doing. But there's so many good benefits to doing things custom, the way we do it. All right. Well, that's it. This one's a little shorter than my average podcast today, but I really wanted to talk about this. I think it's a fun topic. It's an important topic to us because, of course, we want to, the more custom stuff we do, the better. We're that shop where if somebody else can't do it, we'll do it. We'll try to anyway. All right. Until next time, take her easy. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you are interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.